majority of Democrats actually come with us on the clean debt ceiling to say no, they weren't going to pass the clean debt ceiling. So then we continued the conversation until we got to where we were a week ago when we passed this bill. There were three things that I needed in this bill. One is no new taxes. The president had said to us, unless there are new taxes in there, new revenue, revenue is a secret word for taxes, unless there are new taxes in there, I will veto the bill. Well, we kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and guess what? He signed a bill last week that had no new taxes. And he continued to say he would veto the bill. We pushed him against the wall. He signed a bill with no new taxes. Second thing I had to have in there is I want a structural change. It's not enough. Golly knows it's not enough. We have got to keep pushing. But the structural change is this. By statute, we were able to get in there 10 years worth of caps on spending. So if you go into the bill, I think it's on page 42 of the bill, you will see year by year by year, we have actually said this is the maximum amount that you can spend in Congress. Congress cannot go above that. There is our statutory spending limits in there. Now people say to me, well, what's different about that than the Graham-Rudman Act that occurred several years ago where they had caps on spending as well? That was done by rule. It was not done by law. So this is actually in the law, which is a whole lot stronger. Can Congress come back and change that law? Absolutely they can. But it's a whole lot harder. And it will be a whole lot harder with the public pressure on them if they try to change that and grow government above what those statutory limits are. So no new taxes, structural change. And the third thing was I wanted as many cuts as were in whatever the debt limit increase was. Excuse me. And now recognize, these cuts, if I were to sit down and tell you this, you go, oh man, these are just tricks, this is just, it's Congress's way of trying to say they did something they really didn't. And you know what? In some ways, you're really right. Remember I said it's a 10-year period? So these cuts are over a 10-year period. But what is raised in the debt limit is in the current year. So really, the cuts are not as significant as some would make you want to believe. But we pushed a conversation that began with, I want new taxes and I want increases in spending. And I see Eric standing up. And so the final thing that I want to tell you in there is that cuts are for right now. That's immediate. The structural changes in the bill that were statutory spending limits are medium term. Long term, what we have to pass is a balanced budget amendment. It goes all the way back to Jefferson. Jefferson says the one thing that was missing from our Constitution was we didn't have a balanced budget amendment in order to put handcuffs on our legislators, and he was right. All these years, over 200 years, we've been trying to get it. Back in 1995, they had the balanced budget amendment passed in the House. It failed in the Senate by 1 vote, and we believe the time is right now to pass a balanced budget amendment in the House and the Senate. It does not go to the President. It then goes to the states, and the states will ratify it. And we believe this is the best time in history. Timing is so much a part of success. This is the right time, and we believe this is the time to do it. So we must have, that bill had in it, we must have a vote on a balanced budget amendment by the end of this year. So honey, I may be spending Christmas in Congress. I didn't tell him that before. I thought I'd tell him that in front of you all so he doesn't slap me. But I want to open it up. I know I only have, what? Oh, I don't have any time for questions, do I? Just a few minutes. Yes, John.
Diane, thank you for serving us, by the way. Many people are of the opinion we can't fix our problems if we have term limits. What do you think?
I don't think term limits are it. I mean, I'm for term limits, and I believe that discussion will take place once we get past all this budget. Because 87 new people that came into our conference are really adamant about changing Washington, but I don't know that term limits really are the answer. I will tell you what I believe the most immediate answer is. We have got to change Senate. We have got to have the Senate. I'd love to have the presidency too, but let's just say that things happen that we don't get the presidency. I believe this president is one that you can push against the wall. We pushed him against the wall on the CR. We pushed him against the wall on this vote, on the no new taxes. And if you have the strength in 2 chambers where you have 2/3 rather than 1/3 like we have right now, we can push some of our policies through. So term limits, yes, I believe are important, but I don't believe they're the answer to this question. Balanced budget amendment for long term is the answer. I have one more question in the back here.
One of the things that bothers me is every time it comes on raising taxes,
question. Yeah, yeah. Well, she's asking the question about raising taxes and why does, and this is really what President Obama wants to do, is it's class warfare. It is raising taxes on the job producers, people that make $200,000 a year or $250,000 as a couple. If you look at, and you do a study of this, and I'm very fortunate that I'm on Ways and Means, and Ways and Means is doing its study right now on tax reform, so I've seen all this, I know it, my brain is so full, I get a headache on it. But when you look at people who make $200,000 or $250,000 as a couple, they are generally the ones who have businesses, who have started businesses, who have worked hard to get businesses, and the more you tax them, the more you hurt the small business. When you start talking about Warren Buffett, you're jumping in a whole different category. We are going to do tax reform. We are probably going to come out with a plan on that because our tax system is so complicated, it is unfair. We need a simpler, fairer, flatter system. And when we get that, what you will see is you will see that the revenue probably will increase, but that is really not the intent of this. The intent of this is to make it fairer so that people who are working under the table and getting paid, that they're going to have to pay as well. And so that's a whole other discussion. I could spend a lot of time on that. Eric, I know my time is limited and we've got a great speaker coming up, but I'm willing to stay over and answer anyone's questions personally. I do want to let you all know it is such a privilege and honor for me to represent you. I'm having the time of my life, and believe me, there are sometimes I feel like I'm going to pull my hair out. I miss my adorable husband and my great family, and I miss all of you. But for such a time as this, and I thank you for giving me that opportunity. Please join me weekly on my email that I send out. I do an e-letter at the end of every week to give you my perspective on what's going on in Congress. Very easy to get to, black.house.gov, and we'd love to hear from you as well. Thank you, Eric.
Sign here. It's a book on Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, I love it. I need to read it.
Pull your hair out, baby.
Very good. Thank you. And Diane, I will also tell you that we're very proud here at the Rotary Club. We actually passed a balanced budget. And I'll send you that Excel spreadsheet if you want. Guest. For those of you who don't know Tammy yet, I've gotten to know her a little better in the past couple of weeks. She is actually a past district governor while she was a doctor, and which I'm sure is no easy task. Past district governor of 5750, which is in Oklahoma, and now she is going through new member orientation next week at our club.